Hey everyone, insight number 2. So we're in Matthew 13. We're sort of looking, and I've done this in 3 parts because it's all in there, and I'm like, well, let's just call it Matthew 13, 10 to 47, part 1, 2, and 3. Just work better, rather than trying to break it up and getting messy. So, part 1, the why of teaching in parables. So, we've already covered the parable of the sower. So if you go look at verse 15, because after the parable of the sower, well, actually in verse 10, the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? And he answered and said, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. As in, you have a greater understanding, you had more teaching, these are fresh people. And I mean, like the apostles' disciples themselves were new converts, but they were more teachable. These people were really unskilled and unteachable. Like it was a way of teaching that was very easy for them. And then he goes on to say that whoever has that given, he can take it and make it more. I speak to them in parables because they don't see and they don't hear, and this is a way for them to see and hear in more of an abstract, simple way. Then he goes on to say it fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive. So these people saw Jesus, they saw him preaching, and they still didn't get it. They heard what he was saying, but they didn't actually understand it and disregarded it. So teaching in parables is a way to simplify it, to make it really easy, but to also, for those that do understand it, they get to ponder on it and find deeper meaning and then go on from that. So verse 15 is the focus of this, why teach in parables, and this is the main answer here. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. So it's about focusing on the teaching of the story. Anyway, after hearing Jesus teach in parable form, in verse 10 they ask why he teaches that way, and in verse 15 Jesus' answer is clear. Very much so. These people are not used to this kind of teaching. You think of a new convert and you take them to conference and you're super hyped because conference is coming, and I'm super hyped already. I'm excited for it. I need the nourishment. I'll be getting up at 4 a.m. to hear it, and I'm happy about it. It's going to be amazing. But to a new convert who doesn't yet have that depth of understanding of the awesomeness of it, they're kind of like, why would you want to get up that early? And what's so great about sitting in front of the TV listening to people just talk for 2 hours at a time, and you do that for 5 blocks? That seems kind of insane, really from an outsider's point of view, right? So he teaches that way, and he's saying that, look, these people are a picture book people. They're ready for a picture book story, which is what I'm giving them. I'm giving them visual images to try and teach them, because if I just told them a whole lot of words, it's going to go bounce off them and it's not going to make any sense to them because they're not in that place yet. But there's still a lot we can also learn from parables, because maybe sometimes we're not in that place for that particular concept. And other times we'll read a parable and we'll be like, oh, we know exactly what this is. And other times we read a parable and we're not in experience of that particular thing, or we still don't have a complete understanding, and we can learn a lot from that. So there's a good reason why he teaches in parables. To learn the gospel, we start at the beginning. Our level of understanding is small. So picture book level learning, not textbooks, is a good idea, right? It's what is needed. We can move on to textbooks, and I'm pretty much saying I'm finding myself, because I used to look at my grandfather when he was younger, and he would be reading what I would call textbooks of church, and I'm like, why do you want to read that? How boring and dull and long-worded, and you're looking up words in the dictionary to understand what's in the book. And we were always taught in school that if you read the first page of a book and you didn't understand 5 words, then you had to put the book back because it wasn't for you. And I always thought, well, okay, that's interesting, but why not stretch yourself and try? So I always used to stretch myself and try and do the same thing, get a book and didn't understand that word, look it up in the dictionary, but that's how I learnt. So, different approach. Didn't like what the teacher said, went against it. But anyway, worked for me. But yeah, picture book learning is where you would start little kids at. So it's when we're little kids in the gospel, which we kind of are still. We need the picture books. We need the visual images as well as the text. And they both go together. But now I find myself reading the same kind of books my granddad used to read. And I see people looking at me like, isn't that boring and dull? And I'm like, no, it's awesome. So I'm kind of getting into that stage more than picture books. I love the parables. I really, really do. And now I'm looking at more of the depth of them. But honestly, when studying the parables, focus on the theme and how it affects your life and what you can learn from that. The message and what you need to learn from it. Just don't get caught up on what every little detail is. Let it develop in your own mind. And that's why I like to study so much about the parables, because I like to take everybody's point of view, like really educated people, because I'm self-educated. I'm not like a doctoral professor in church literature or history or anything. So I'll read their books that they do. Really grateful that they do them, and these are smart BYU teaching smart people, or even like not even our church, just other churches who have like really, really smart, well, like church gospel type educated people who just have the most amazing insights in the parables. However, I don't just read one book and go, oh yeah, they're right, because there's slight conflicts in them and their opinions. Not like huge conflicts, but like just differences of nuances in their opinions. And I'm like, well, I just let it develop in my mind. I put it in my mind. I'm like, I think it means this. I feel it means, to me, it means more of this. And that's really what the parables are. They're to teach us gospel principles and things about, for this week, the kingdom of heaven and what that is, to help us to understand and to learn and where we fit in that. And it will change as you grow and learn as well. When I first started reading the parables, I was like, well, that's a nice story and it teaches us this one thing. But there's so much more complexity in there. So whether you're learning the one thing or you're learning the complexity and you're on that sort of, I don't know, timeline or different learning, that's fine. But don't get caught up on what each little thing is. Just look at the theme. Teach your family the theme. Learn from the theme. Think, am I doing that thing that this is really teaching? Is this actually having an impact on me? So think about that. So there's no person who wrote this quote. I don't know who did this. I found this when I was looking for parable quotes on the internet to go with this week's insights, and I thought this really works well about the why of parables. So if you do see this ever and you did say this, please let me know and I'll add your name to it. But I don't know who said this. But anyway, it says, the parable conveys to the hearer religious truth exactly in proportion to his faith and intelligence. To the dull and uninspired, it is a mere story. Seeing, they see not. While to the instructed and spiritual, it reveals the mysteries or secrets of the kingdom of heaven. Thus it is that the parable exhibits the condition of all true knowledge. Only he who seeks finds. And I thought that was really interesting and quite aptly describes why of parables and how Christ taught in that way for that reason, and that people who were listening to him, who didn't understand it and weren't probably that interested in what he was saying, but were kind of there or just to see what was happening, or if the Roman soldier guards were walking past or whatever, they'd think, oh, he's telling a nice story. But to those that were seeking Jesus, they saw something else. So he who seeks knowledge from these will find it, and if you don't, then it's just going to be a really nice story for you. So it's not harmful either way. It's just good. So let it develop in your own mind. Have a stay there. As we get into more of these parables and go through them, just let them develop in your own mind. And what do you find from it, and what do you like about it? So think on that. All right. Stick around. We're going to look at, are you wheat or are you tears? And what is the difference? I'll see you there.